I am not quite as excitable as I was yesterday. So I'm hoping you can see, you can guess from my demeanor, right, that my brain is much calmer today. So maybe my words will come out properly today. Who knows? That's because I was up at 5:30 this morning reading a research paper. That kind of dampens down the excitement and brain function, basically, when you've been concentrating for 3 hours on it. So I'm a little bit calmer today. But I am going to talk about something super useful today. I hope it's going to be useful to everyone. It's not my slant. I haven't invented it, but it's my process, if you will, for trying to figure out why people fail with their goals. So that's going to be useful to some people, hopefully, right? Because obviously when people come to me to help them with their health, they've generally failed at what they're trying to achieve many, many, many times over. So they're normally the kind of people who might have set some goals for themselves and just repeatedly failed at those goals. When I say failed, I don't mean like it's their fault. There are lots of things going on, right? But it's my job to try and figure out when I first start working with them, why have they failed? Generally, it's to do with shit advice, obviously, and, not being told the correct way or not finding a way that suits them. So it can very often be that. But there is, surprise, surprise, from me, a bit of science shit that goes behind what I do. And I thought, do you know what? I'm going to be completely honest right now. I actually thought twice about talking about this because it is a little bit sciencey, right? And I didn't think twice about it because I thought, oh, people won't understand, right? Because I'm a firm believer, like I fucking hate those practitioners who say, like, you shouldn't overwhelm people with science and evidence and like terms that only people who read research papers understand and stuff. But if somebody wants to know the reason why you've asked them to do things, I'm a firm believer in that you should tell people. Don't assume that people are too stupid to understand stuff because, particularly with your health, it's your right to know why you're doing things that you're asked to do, right? So it wasn't for that reason. It was just that I thought people would think it was a bit fucking boring, if I'm being completely honest. Now, I'm painfully aware that I love all this shit and I think it's the best thing ever. But I'm painfully aware it's like that. But I'm going to do it anyway. See what you think. Good morning, Marcus. Thank you for noticing my T-shirt. It's St. Louis. He looks lovely, doesn't he, like that? I've got a candle to match too. Got that on today. I felt like I needed to channel a bit of Louis today. Right, so what I'm going to talk about. So lots of people fail at goals, right? So why do we fail at goals? It's because for most people, a goal is a detour from the path of least resistance, right? Because if we're all honest, we all kind of tread along on this path of least resistance most of the time, or certainly in some areas of our life, right? And we probably need to, because if you were trying to do everything the hard way, I said hard. Oh my God, I am in one of those moods. I thought I wasn't. If we try and do everything the hard way, like it's going to be a pretty miserable life, right? So obviously we do need to take the path of least resistance sometime during our life for certain things. But also if we want to progress, we have to take a detour from that path of least resistance. And that's generally what a goal is, right? So when people come to me and they have not been able to achieve goals, there's two things that I look at. So in behavioral science, we look at two elements in terms of goals, right? So the first is basically the will, right? So the desire or the motivation to achieve that goal, and that'll manifest itself in terms of, intention, prioritization. If a client comes to me and they, well, I really want to achieve this goal, but time and time again, they're prioritizing other stuff over it, or they're not motivated to do stuff about it. And I talk a lot, right, about motivation being a finite resource. It is, but it does work. There's a little bit of discipline involved first to get you going, and then discipline to get you going. This is going to be a theme of today. But then the motivation will help you carry on, right? So that's the first element, is the will. So it's all around desire, motivation, prioritization, that type of stuff, right? The second element is the way. So you've got the will and the way, right? So the way is about have you got the skills, the knowledge, the capacity to achieve this goal. So that's about cognitive, right? So the one bit is more kind of emotional, mindset, behavioral, and the second bit is more cognitive in terms of knowledge and ability and stuff like that. So I know that there's going to be one of those two reasons, because if you're trying to achieve a goal that is high in terms of cognitive ability or skill, you need to be highly skilled, you need to upskill yourself a long way from where you are, you need to learn a lot more to achieve that goal, but the desire is low, why the fuck have you set yourself that goal? It's really fucking hard because you haven't got the skills and the knowledge yet to do it, but also you're not really motivated by it. Scratch that goal, right? And it might seem like, why the fuck would someone set a goal for themselves like that? Very often it's about other people's expectations. So I will never forget, I don't know if I should talk about this. I'm going to, because I don't think that they follow me anymore. I worked with a couple, but it was only the husband that was getting coaching from me. The reason I say I worked with a couple is because his wife insisted being on the first call, and she basically told me why he wanted to lose weight. And I was not keen to go ahead, but he was like, yeah, no, this is definitely what I want. And I basically worked with him for 4 weeks before I realized he wasn't fucking interested in losing any weight. His wife wanted him to lose weight and kind of pushed him in my direction. So there are instances where people set goals that are not achievable for them because they don't have the capacity to do it right now. That's not always a permanent thing, right? But also his motivation was really low because it wasn't actually him that wanted to make the change. So there are instances where that happens. Whereas if you don't yet have the skills and the knowledge or the capacity, but you're really motivated by a goal, you've got a strong desire to achieve it and you prioritize it over everything else, it's a relatively simple process to get those skills and that knowledge that you need to achieve that goal. So, there's lots of different reasons why people might be failing. They don't have the skills, the knowledge, they don't have the will, or the desire or the motivation, or they've set themselves completely unrealistic goals because of one of those two elements, right? So that's why when I first work with people, the first call we have, I ask them quite a lot about their dieting history, so I can see a pattern emerging of goals that have been set and not met. So yeah, that's kind of the first thing that I will do. In terms of what that kind of informs what I do with them, with most people, I'm going to say when they've got a weight goal, one of the reasons that they haven't achieved it, or I would say the main reason, is to do with the way. So it's not to do with the will. Most people who come to me, I'm not joking, people cry on the calls because they're so desperate. They desperately want to achieve this goal. and they've been trying for years and years, and they can't do it, and they come to me in tears of frustration, right? So I know when that happens, the will is there, the motivation is there. So it's not the will, it's the way. So and that's why I'm really big on knowledge and empowerment, right? Because one of the first things that I do, and not everyone agrees with this approach, I don't know if I think it's particularly controversial, but in some circles it is, I will get people to weigh themselves every single day, first of all. Because the first thing I want to do, when they've got a goal that's tied into weight, and when they've been brainwashed by slimming fucking world, yes, I'm going to say it, that, you know, if you haven't lost 3 pounds a week, you're a failure. The first thing I need to do, like, there's no good me saying to them, weight doesn't matter. Like, that's not really a great measure of progress. We're going to look at other stuff. They're going to be like, fuck that. I've been brainwashed, mate, for the last 15 years. I've been at Slimming World, and I'm not interested in what you've got to say about it. So the first thing I will do is get them to weigh themselves every day. Not to get them to obsess about their weight, but to show them how fucking ridiculous it is to use weight as a measure of progress, because it fluctuates wildly from day to day. Because all they're getting at Slimming World is a fucking snapshot, right, of what you weigh at a particular time in the week. They've got no fucking idea what's been going on the rest of the week. So I will get them to weigh themselves every day. They don't have to do it forever if they don't want to, but they do it until I am happy that they no longer tie their self-worth into that number on the scale. Because then what I do is every time on the sheet, on my famous sheet, every time they log their weight, every time there's a fluctuation, I will show them at the check-in, right, your weight went up on this day. It is not fat. It's not possible to put on 0.5 kilo of fat overnight. What actually happened is, if you look, your carbohydrate intake went up, which caused water retention. And you also ate something salty, which further caused water retention, which explains that fluctuation, right? That's just one example of why your weight might go up or down on any given day. So that means that they are more likely to achieve their goal, because when they get on the scale and see it going up and down, instead of getting on the scale in Slimming World and being 2 pounds up from that particular time last week and going, fuck it, this doesn't work, I can't do anything right, I've been in a calorie deficit all week, I'm broken, my metabolism's broken, fuck it, I'm going to go and get a McDonald's on the way home. What my clients do is get on the scale and go, oh yeah, like I forgot I had a packet of crisps because I really fancied it. Probably quite salty. This is probably water weight. If I drink a shitload of water today, that'll be gone tomorrow. And then they adhere to the diet for longer because they know why the scale is going up and down. So there's an example of someone who has now upskilled themselves in terms of knowledge, which means that they are now going to be able to sustain that change for longer and probably reach their goal, right? So that is an example of that. I'm going to go a little tiny bit more sciencey, right? So another reason why reaching a goal is difficult, right, is the particular set of functions that you need to use in your brain to affect that change. So I've talked about the way, which is about knowledge, cognitive ability, capacity, that kind of thing. To achieve a new goal, you need to use something that we call executive function, right? So that is a set of higher level cognitive skills. The exact definition of what those skills are is debated in behavioral science. There's quite a lot of debate going on about what should be included and what shouldn't, right? But it's higher level cognitive tasks like attention, memory, task switching, kind of multitasking, all of those kind of higher level cognitive things. So not things that you just do on a daily basis that are subconscious. These are attributes that you consciously have to use, right? So the reason that achieving a goal is also hard is because executive functions have 3 characteristics, right? They require effort. They need to be applied consciously. So they're not something that you do subconsciously. And they are needed for what we call novel goals, so new things. So not going back to behaviors that you've done before. If you want to learn something new, you have to use your executive function, which requires effort and conscious effort, right? So that's why that also might be hard, right? Because as you know, I work with business owners. If your head is already full of shit, right, about running your business, it might not be that you haven't got the cognitive ability to achieve your goal or upskill so you can achieve your goal. You haven't got the cognitive capacity, the brain capacity. You can't fit anything else in. And when I ask you to fit something in that requires effort, like conscious effort, and a higher level of cognitive skill, you're going to be like, fuck that, mate. I'm trying to run my business, right? So improving that executive function is actually a really hard thing to do. And there are about 5 million papers about how to improve executive function, because everyone, it's a little bit like the key to like everlasting life, right? Like the fountain of youth. It's like the cognitive version of that, right? Because that's kind of what all these fucking life hack people are looking for, biohack people. How do you improve executive function? Like if we know that, everyone's become a fucking super genius, right? That's why there are so many research papers about it, because everyone wants to find out how to do it. So that's kind of the, like I said, the will bit. So the way, like if somebody, that's the way bit, sorry. So the will, if somebody's kind of low in terms of their desire or motivation to achieve a particular goal, it doesn't necessarily mean that they don't want it. It just means that they've been trying to do it for so long and failed so many times. They're just fucking sick of it, right? So when I look at a person and kind of try and assess whether that's what's going on, there are some particular things that I do to try and correct that, right? So they involve things like reducing the value of their old behaviors. So if they've got old behaviors that are going on, you know, that are ingrained in them, it's really hard to change those. And you can't just say, oh, you should stop doing that. It's not good for you, right? Fucking like, why are you going to listen to me when you've been doing something for 20 years? It's not going to happen, right? So we have to look at ways at reducing the value of their old behaviors, because then they can have a look at, okay, I can see this thing that I'm doing and I can see that it is not actually doing me a lot of good. So it's about logic and reasoning, but obviously about emotions, trying to take the emotion out of it and say, yes, I know you're attached to this behavior, but look at the consequences of it. So trying to reduce the value of the old behavior, right? And then we try and amplify the value of the new behavior. This is hard. Yes, I said it again. I can see that there's some dodgy stuff going on in the comments, and I've just said this is hard again. So I'm sure that there's going to be another comment. But I'm talking about something interesting, so I'm not going to stop. Amplifying the value of the new behavior. This is hard because it's to do with reward. Okay, so if you do a new behavior, you want to be rewarded for it, and we can just keep talking about dopamine and all the like brain shit that goes on, but I'm not going to get into that. The thing with changing health behaviors is there is no immediate reward. Reward is slow. Okay, if I set you on a program to improve your sleep, you're probably not going to see any reward for that for at least 3 months. Okay, so that's quite a hard sell, right? So I can't rely on the fact that somebody is going to be motivated for long enough to see the reward for their behaviors, right? So how do I resolve that? I link that. So what we're talking about there is dopamine, right? They want a dopamine hit for these new behaviors. It ain't coming anytime soon, right? So what we need to do then is link that to other areas of their brain, like self, like identity, right? So those areas of your brain, they're looking at your values and what you believe in and the type of person that you think you are or you hope you are, right? Which is why I use the thing like the ninja alter ego. Because if I can tap into these new behaviors will, help you become this person that you want to be. They will change your sense of self. They will change your identity into something that, that you want to become, and they intrinsically become your values and yourself and your identity. Then we don't need motivation because that's just who you are. That's a bit of behavioral science, nerdy stuff. I hope you enjoyed it and didn't just spend the whole time making like rude comments when I was telling you something super interesting. So yeah, in summary, goals are a detour from the path of least resistance. The two elements of behavioral change that we look at are the way, cognitive skills, knowledge, capacity, and the will, motivation, desire, prioritization, intention. And the reason that the way is difficult is because we need to tap into executive function. And the reason that the will is difficult is because we need to understand that gratification is delayed. Dopamine ain't coming anytime soon, and we need to use other ways to motivate ourselves. A wrap up at the end as well. How cool was that? Right, let's just see what nonsense is going on in the comments now. Yes, Zach Lacey, this is Hermione, and the JJs bought me that because I am fucking magic. Basically. So yeah, the JJ's bought me that a while ago, and I didn't have anywhere to put it until I moved, and now I have. So there she is to remind me how fucking magic I am. Marcus, remaining committed to achieving a goal whilst living a busy life with all that demands. It's super hard. Like, it's not easy. It's not easy because, like I said, if you have got a busy life, maybe, you're not going to be able to do the way part because you haven't got the capacity to learn the new thing that you need to learn. And you haven't got the motivation because, you've got lots of other commitments pulling you in different ways. And maybe that's causing a bit of stress, and stress is not going to help with motivation. So, yeah, it's super hard. It's super hard. But you know what? There comes a point, all the people that I work with, they come to me because there will come a point when you are sick of your own shit. There will come a point where staying where you are now will become more painful and more difficult than actually changing it. So until that time comes, it's pretty hard to do anything about it. The mistress of filth has showed up. That's why the comments have gone downhill, have they? Good morning, Emma. Sorry, Marcus, maybe you don't want me to flash that up on the screen. You'd be surprised. You are not in a minority there. I've had people who eat in their car. They invent shopping trips and tell their other half, I've got to nip out for this, so that they can get in the car, nip out for the thing that they were getting, and then eat in their car and then drive home. I've had people eat in their bathroom, sneak into the kitchen while their other half is watching TV, load their pockets with biscuits and eat them in the bathroom. I know all about secret eaters, Marcus, and lots of strategies to deal with it, actually. So, but it's not a minority thing. A lot of people do it. You were already all about the dopamine. Look, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, Emma, that's right. Like, let's talk about periods. I hate it when people call it something else. Like, men can't deal with the fact that you said the word period. Like, fuck off. Oh, my time of the month, whatever. Period. yeah, definitely that affects water retention. It also, just to really throw everything in there that people don't want to hear about, it also causes constipation sometimes just before your period, which will also affect your weight as well. So definitely affects your weight. I ate something salty. I love something salty. I prefer salty over sweet. Oh, you too late there, Zach. You knew that Mela would be in there with that. How could you not know that? Yep, this is hard. Achieving goals is hard. It shouldn't be, but it is. And you're right, some people like it to be hard. Some people like to be punished, don't they, Emma? A kind of, setting themselves a hard goal, maybe a type of self-flagellation. What do you think? I think it is. Wow, it really did descend into pure filth in the comments, didn't it? Do you get rewarded if you're hard? I don't know. If the goal is harder, is it more rewarding to achieve it? Only you can answer that, Marcus. Sorry if it's hard. Don't apologise for that. That is a very eloquent summary of all the knowledge bombs that I've just dropped for you there. About, yeah, for sure. With behavioural science, if something's hard, then the gratification is delayed and the dopamine won't be coming in anytime soon. So again, Zach Lacey, I'm glad you got the gist. I'm not even going to talk about how happy I am that I didn't mispronounce the word gist. It's getting bad. Well, Zach, you know the answer to this, right? I am magic. If I was a witch, you'd be in trouble. Let's just say that. Again, don't apologise, Marcus. I'm glad that you're here at all, whatever state that is in. Has anyone got anything sensible to say about all my behavioural science and neuroscience knowledge bombs that I, suspected might not go down too well? And all I can say is that because you behaved like a classroom of naughty children while I was very seriously imparting some knowledge to you, I'm guessing it didn't go down that well. There's another one for you, Emma. It didn't go down very well. No one got anything sensible to say. Great. Well, I'm really happy that you enjoyed today's TED Talk. And if you actually have any serious questions about goal setting, about executive function, about motivation, then let me know. Let me know. Right, I'll be back tomorrow. Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? I'll either be overexcited like I was yesterday or just full of innuendo like I am today. Who knows which one it'll be? Turn up and see. Wow, like a cliffhanger. I'm getting so good at this. Like it's my own show. I'm now doing a cliffhanger. Dun, dun, dun. Who knows what will happen tomorrow? Tune in to see. Thanks for watching.